This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
And good evening. I'm Sam Brock, in for Jose tonight. And we begin with not one, but two dangerous weather events unfolding in different parts of the country. Right now, we're tracking a flash flood emergency in Kentucky, where the governor says there have already been reports of fatalities. Here you can see just how high the floodwaters are coming up on buildings and bringing cars like this one to a standstill. At the same time, wildfires are burning out of control in Utah tonight, forcing people to evacuate to escape the flames. You can see the thick, heavy smoke completely taking over some areas of the sky, with some parts so hazy you can't even see the sun. Dana Griffin starts us off tonight.
Tonight, deadly flash flooding in Kentucky, the governor declaring a state of emergency.
We've already had at least one motorist swept away and killed by flash flooding.
12 state roads out of commission today due to flooding, and Bullitt County facing a potential dam failure, forcing people to evacuate. In western Nebraska,
they're letting people go through this.
Streets inundated.
Chris, I'm coming behind you. State police, okay?
And new video this week from New Mexico State Police.
Help me. I can't. Okay. I can't.
Rescuing a visibly exhausted man from flash flooding in Albuquerque.
I got you. I got you.
Across Utah, gusty winds fueling out-of-control wildfires. Officials pleading with the public to be careful.
We have at least 5 structures that are currently on fire.
Plumes of smoke fill the air as nearly a dozen fires now burn across the Beehive State.
I'm 100 yards away and I can feel the heat.
2 fires in Juab County overnight merging into one massive 30,000-acre cherry fire, prompting new evacuation orders. The 92,000-acre cottonwood fire, the nation's largest active blaze, has already scorched an area larger than Salt Lake City, with 0% containment. Officials say dozens of structures are likely lost.
A lot of good friends of mine have lost cabins, and it's heartbreaking. This is the 3rd summer we've been burned out of house and home.
Firefighters hoping to keep flames at bay until the winds die down.
And Dana Griffin joins me now. Dana, let's go back for a sec to those deadly floods in Kentucky. What more are we learning about fatalities?
So, Sam, NBC News just got off the phone with the coroner in Madison County. He confirmed 3 flooding fatalities, all adults in their 40s or 50s. He is still working to identify them. Sam?
Tragic situation there in Kentucky. Dana, thank you so much. Now to South America and the crisis unfolding there, where time is running out in Venezuela. In huge sections of the country, desperate searches to find any trapped survivors enters a critical phase right now after those catastrophic back-to-back earthquakes. Tonight, another large aftershock shook the area as people on the ground are growing desperate and frustrated with the government's response. Aaron Gilchrist reports.
Tonight, a desperate search and rescue effort 3 days after earthquakes devastated Venezuela. And frustrations boiling over, angry protesters saying the government is not doing enough to get to their missing loved ones. This woman claiming bodies have been found in the rubble, but authorities have not helped recover them. This teenaged boy searching for his mother and little brother near the quake's epicenter with nothing but a pickaxe and a shovel. Similar scenes playing out across the disaster zone as the government now estimates more than 1,400 people are dead, at least 3,000 more injured. Before and after satellite images showing one seaside city decimated. Heartbreaking pictures of just how widespread the damage is coming into sharper view. The city at the center of this disaster now closed off by the military, too unstable for people to go in. Hundreds of aftershocks hitting the country since Wednesday. As new video shows the moments right before the quake struck. This man's phone pinging. 30 seconds later, he runs for cover. Google's earthquake alert system, which it says can detect shaking ground, sending warnings that reached more than 11 million Android users on Wednesday, potentially saving lives. And amid the chaos, signs of hope. A 15-year-old girl pulled from the rubble alive overnight, flashing a heart sign as she was carried away. And cheers after a Spanish team rescued an elderly woman today. More than 2,000 first responders from around the globe now on the ground in Venezuela, including expert rescuers from across the United States. Just outside Atlanta, the Venezuelan community feverishly gathering food, clothes, and other supplies to send to loved ones and strangers now in dire need.
We need to do something, otherwise nobody's going to do that.
And Aaron joins me now. Aaron, it's evident how many people want to just pitch in and help out. How quickly are these donations expected to get to Venezuela?
Well, Sam, we've been watching a nonstop flow of diapers, food, clothing, water. We're told that more than 500 boxes have been packed up at this location just today, and they're going to be joining other donations put on a truck that will head to Miami and then be put on a ship bound directly for Venezuela. Sam?
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you. Those images out of Venezuela are just heartbreaking. In some cases, people taking matters into their own hands to find their loved ones. Freelance journalist Ana Vanessa Herrero joining us now from the capital of Venezuela, Caracas. And Vanessa, you felt another earthquake there today.
Yes, Sam, indeed. Earlier, another one, not hard, but people are still shaking about it. But even though that happened, as you can see behind me, I'm in one of the sites that was affected by the earthquake, and efforts are still ongoing to try to find someone alive underneath that pile of concrete that used to be a four-story apartment building. Families here are gathering, creating this kind of searching committees to try to look for their loved ones, taking it upon themselves to find them alive. They are the ones sharing a handmade blueprint with authorities, as you can see there in the images. Now, I've been talking to families for a couple of days now, and they're all concerned about the same thing, that the government is taking too long and working without protocols. They are waiting for international rescue teams to accelerate the work, but so far they're not here just yet. Now, resources to find survivors, again, are limited, and families are just claiming that they need the international support to help find them. Sam?
Frustrations just mounting there. Ana Vanessa Herrero, thank you so much. There is breaking news to get to tonight. The U.S. just launching new strikes on Iran after Iranian drones hit another ship in the Strait of Hormuz. It's just the latest warning sign that the Iran peace deal could be in jeopardy. Keir Simmons reports from Jerusalem.
Tonight, the U.S. launching a second night of strikes on Iran. This grainy video showing the first U.S. strikes since President Trump's deal to end the war. CENTCOM says it targeted Iranian missile and drone storage locations and radars Friday. This morning, Iran retaliating, hitting another ship in the Strait of Hormuz, according to a monitoring group, and targeting Bahrain, that government says. And now, tonight, U.S. Central Command says it carried out additional strikes against multiple targets at President Trump's direction. Just this month, President Trump declared the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran a turning point.
We signed a historic agreement to accomplish what no president has ever been able to accomplish before.
But tonight, on Iranian state television, its foreign ministry accusing the U.S. of treaty breaking and Iran's Revolutionary Guard threatening broader action. While just days after he led peace talks in Switzerland, Vice President Vance vowing violence will be met with violence. The U.S. accusing Iran of firing first, hitting a ship in the Strait of Hormuz Thursday. Since then, 48 hours of muscle flexing that threatens Iran's neighbors and this month's fragile diplomacy as all sides continue to claim victory. Israel's prime minister calling an Israel-Lebanon deal signed in the US this week a major blow to Iran, while Hezbollah's leader claiming President Trump's Iran deal is a declaration of defeat for America and Israel. Today, Israel was back firing on Hezbollah strongholds in southern Lebanon.
And Keir Simmons joins us now from Jerusalem. You talked about muscle flexing there, Keir. Let's go back to these new U.S. strikes on Iran just moments ago. What does this mean big picture for the peace process?
Well, Sam, tonight U.S. Central Command says that those strikes today are a direct result of Iran targeting another ship today in the Strait of Hormuz. But the risk is further escalation, Sam, with Iran increasingly assertive. Sam?
Keir Simmons from the Mideast with the very latest. Thank you so much. Back at home now, we are learning more about what appears to have been a very close call between a United Airlines flight and a drone at Newark Airport in New Jersey. United says the crew reported a drone sighting while on approach to landing at the airport Friday. Airline officials say the plane did land safely. Nobody was hurt, and the FAA says it is investigating. Back now with a scary scene at an amusement park in New York State. You can put this under situations you don't want to experience. A bunch of folks stuck on the Adirondack Outlaw ride for more than an hour. The Great Escape Park there says it happened because of a power outage. 13 people were on board at the time, but emergency crews were eventually able to get everybody down safely. Also tonight, Taylor Swift fans have been speculating about plans for her wedding to Super Bowl winning tight end Travis Kelce, which could be as soon as next weekend. And the prediction markets are cashing in on the speculation, too. Here's Valerie Castro.
Hey, Taylor. The upcoming wedding between Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce fueling speculation about every aspect of the big day, with people throwing down big bets on the nuptials details.
The American royal wedding is next weekend, probably.
So how much are people gambling on things like the venue, bridal party, and guest list? Are you ready for it? Nearly $4.2 million traded so far on the online prediction market Kalshi.
Are fans drawn to these prediction markets because it makes them feel like they're somehow involved, they're a part of the celebration or the detail?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a desire to participate in these different bets because it's a way to feel connected to Taylor and to be part of her story.
Kalshi says about half of the money wagered is just on the location. New York City, the favorite spot, after unconfirmed reports that Madison Square Garden could be where the couple ties the knot over the 4th of July weekend.
I am so team MSG for Taylor Swift's wedding.
Pauly Market also taking predictions on invites. Kelsey's teammate Patrick Mahomes and one of Swift's besties, Selena Gomez, topping the bets. Dollar figures for entertainment markets still pale in comparison to sports. Kalshi reporting $11 billion in trades on the World Cup so far. The NBA Finals hit just over $2 billion. But Kalshi says its entertainment market is already up 100% compared to all of last year. And it's adding a market to trade on who Swift will wear when she weds. Nearly every part of the life of this showgirl, now ways people can make or lose money. Valerie Castro, NBC News.
All bets are on. We're back in a moment, thank you, Valerie, with a major problem in kids' sports. Why so many families are getting priced out by investors and what's being done about it next.
What happens I do that, though.
We're back now with a closer look at a huge problem for families around the country, many of them finding kids' sports increasingly unaffordable as private equity firms are making money off of them. Ryan Noble's on the eye-opening state of affairs and what's being done about it.
On a typical Friday evening here in Washington,
1 minute.
You'll find players from the DC-11 Youth Soccer Academy hard at work. Like most other clubs, players try out to make the team and parents pay dues. But that's where their program diverges.
How have you found a way to make it accessible for anybody that wants to play?
So for us, access is key, right? Some families are able to afford the cost flat out. Other families are not. And so we work with all families that come to us.
Their pay-what-you-can model, a game changer for some families, up against a problem parents all over the country are dealing with, the skyrocketing cost of kids' sports. Parents spending 46% more on average since 2019, with youth sports now estimated to generate $40 billion each year, nearly double the revenue of the NFL.
It's crazy, and it's unfortunate.
Experts say part of the problem, private equity buying up kids' leagues and facilities. Tom Ferry is the executive director of the Aspen Institute's Sports and Society program.
We have a problem in how we set up our sports system in this country. It is not aligned with the principles of athletic development and child development. And what private equity has done is simply come in and accelerated it.
That acceleration leading to a new bill in Congress, the Let Kids Play Act, sponsored by Connecticut Democrat Chris Murphy.
You're dealing with this as a senator, but also as a dad.
Yeah, youth sports are out of control right now, and everybody's feeling it. We have two jobs here. One job is for government to just keep private equity out of sports. The other job is to find a little bit of public money to make sure that kids, no matter whether you live in a poor neighborhood or in a rich neighborhood, have access to some basic level of youth sports.
That access top of mind for parents like Anthony Gilliam.
It's a big problem. Yeah, absolutely. We address it here, but in other clubs, I'm not sure they could do.
Finding paths forward, all for the love of the game. Ryan Nobles, NBC News, Washington.
Ryan, thank you so much. When we come back, there's good news tonight about teamwork and patriotism and the big project these artists made to celebrate America's birthday. Finally, there's good news tonight about the power of community and how love of country brought a lot of people together, one thread at a time.
Yep, perfect.
If you paired patriotism and teamwork together,
This is all DMC cotton.
it might look something like this.
This is going to be a treasure. It's a national treasure.
At this library near Pittsburgh, these women are putting in work for a very special occasion. Their project, called America's Tapestry, is one of many plans to celebrate the nation's 250th birthday. The goal? To weave together stories about our country's founding with embroidery groups from 13 states.
We have 13 embroidered panels, one for each of the original 13 colonies.
Those stories highlighting the everyday people of the American Revolution, like Philadelphia's Rebecca Young, one of the first verified makers of the American flag.
George Washington would have been nothing without the soldiers in his army. These are people that we don't really think about in history, but they were essential for the success of our country.
For these artists, it's not just about history or embroidery.
It's a much broader community than we think about. You think it's just one stitch, but it's a million different skills. And everybody here has brought a different skill to make this a complete whole. It's a huge community beyond a bunch of little ladies who sit around and stitch.
After a year of hard work, the 13 panels are now on display at a museum in Virginia ahead of the 4th of July. A labor of love and community as we celebrate America's birthday.
I hope that we can get back to seeing the power of ordinary people.
We're all here, work at this wonderful library to work on something that we believe in. We're here because we believe in the promise of America and what America can be. And we're looking at it right here, right now.
All right, yay!
Unsung heroes stitching our story there. That is it for NBC Nightly News this Saturday. I'm Sam Brock. For all of us at NBC, thanks for watching. Have a great night.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.